Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with a chair.
I'm Joe Etling, Chair of the Vigo County Democratic Central Committee, and welcome to the award-winning Chat with the Chair. Delighted you could join us. Happy fall, y'all. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. Hard to believe. Hope everyone is enjoying the weather. It's changed on us here a little bit, so get your coats, hats, and mittens out. But winter's right around the corner. We're going to continue to enjoy this great fall weather. We've got a great guest this evening. We're going to have a wide range of topics to talk about. Remind our viewers who you are. We've got a return guest here tonight.
My name's Collin Hartman. I am actually his son-in-law. Live here in Terre Haute. Moved here a year and a half ago. So getting acclimated and just finding my way around.
So Collin, tell everybody about your background, where you're from, and a little bit about. I know a lot of people recognize your face. They probably don't recognize you without a uniform on. But tell our viewers about your background.
Yeah. So I grew up in Fishers on the north side of Indy, and now. I'm living in Terre Haute, but I played basketball at Indiana University for 5 years, so dabbled in a little bit of Division I athletics, and it's been a change of pace getting into the real world and not wearing the jersey all the time. So
of course, playing Division I basketball at the highest level had to be an exciting opportunity for you and your family, and I know that. Worked awful hard to get that. So talk about our viewers a little bit about that and what led to that, and even the decision to attend IU over the other options that you had.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a lot of fun. My whole family was IU basketball fans my whole life, but they really didn't heavily influence. They didn't push me, right? They had their own biases on the background, but they never pushed me to attend one university or other. I was heavily recruited coming out of. IU and Purdue both offered me full ride scholarships when I was in 8th grade. So going into high school, I knew, we had my ticket kind of punched. I took visits to Duke. I had offers from all of the Big Ten, Florida, Stanford, everybody, Texas, all over the country. I really could have chosen, but I only took one official visit, and that was to IU. Purdue at the time was actually recruiting me very heavily. They did a great job. They had a great staff. Coach Painter did a phenomenal job. And then they had a good team. They had Chris Kramer, Juwan Johnson, Etwan Moore, Robbie Hummel. They had a very, very good team. And they paired me with Robbie Hummel on all of my visits, which was good for them because he ended up being projected to be a lottery pick before he got injured, and they're like, we want to turn you into Robbie Hummel. I said, that's great. Lottery pick sounds phenomenal. And so we went to a game one evening, and they won, and me and my mom were sitting in a room after the game, just sitting there talking, and I told my mom, I said, I think I want to commit to Purdue. And she said, now hold on, just wait a second. Because I was a sophomore in high school at this time. She said, hold on, wait a second. Let's just think about this. That's great if that's what you want to do. But let's just think about it, go home, sleep on it, and then, figure it out from there.
And we might add, your mother is Division I basketball player herself.
Yes, she played at Butler. She's the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, runner-up for Miss Basketball. It's funny, on her 40th birthday, they had this huge cardboard cutout of her.
Which was just about a week ago.
Yeah, a week and a half ago or something like that. She'll like that. But they had this huge cutout of her in her Indiana All-Star jersey. And it has this little pop-out bubble saying, Collin who? Because she was the real basketball player in the family. So, but after that Purdue trip, not 2 weeks later, we went to an IU game, and they won. And they had an up-and-coming team. The Cody Zellers, the Jordan Hulls. They had everything going for them. And I sat down with my mom. I said, I think I want to commit to. No, we were driving home. We were on 37 going north. I looked at my mom and said, I think I want to commit to IU. And she said, okay, let's go. Turned the car right around. Zero hesitation. She said, call the grandpa, call your coach. We'll turn around right now. So there was zero hesitation.
She might have a little bias then.
She did. Now, looking back, I was like, that kind of worked out interesting. But no, it's fun. Is as you probably know, with Danny, is an experience to be able to share that with my family, my grandfather, and aunts and uncles, and everybody. So it was awesome. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Of course, in this community, and you'll have some mix between some Purdue loyalists, but I would say that the overwhelming majority of people in this Wabash Valley seem to be leaning towards the Hoosiers, and has been that way for a number of years, and people following Indiana basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have been that way in Fishers and growing up in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it was very heavy IU. I think in the recent 5-10 years, I think more people have come out as Purdue fans, if that's something to say, because they've had a lot of success. But I think we're far enough south here in Terre Haute that it's about an hour to down Bloomington. 46 to Bloomington. So I think it's pretty easy for people to scoot on down there and get to some games and be immersed in it.
Now, of course, you came in obviously as a decorated high school basketball heralded coming in, and of course you had to deal with injuries. You talk about Robbie Hummel, but you yourself had to deal with some significant injuries at IU. Talk about that and what you had to do from an adversity standpoint to overcome those things, get back on the court.
Yeah. So when I got to IU, I was always the man. I never didn't make a team. I never didn't start a single game in my entire career. I've always started every single game, played as much or as little as I wanted or needed to. When I got to IU, I was a deer in the headlights. I was not ready mentally, physically, and I didn't see the court several times. Right. There was one game I remember, my first game, that I had all my family come in, and I didn't get put in at all. I didn't even take off my warm-ups the entire game. And that was the first time that I had much less not started, and I didn't have the expectation of starting, right? I knew that, but not playing at all. That was the first time I'd ever done that, and it was an extremely humbling experience, to the point where I texted my mom in the locker room. I said, because everybody was there, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, mom and Dave, and I just texted them. I said, I'm not coming out, go home. Thanks for coming, I'm not coming. And after all the games, they would give you a pizza. Every player got a full pizza to take home with them after the game. And I just went to my dorm parking lot and sat on the curb and just cried. And it was extremely humbling, and kind of changed my mindset a little bit around who I was at that time. I was cocky, right? I had the whole world in my hands in high school, and everything was easy to me, right? And then that was the first time I got hit with some of that real adversity. And then the very last practice of my freshman year, I tore my ACL. We were terrible my freshman year. I mean, atrocious. We didn't make the NCAA tournament. We didn't make the NIT. I think there was like a college basketball tournament that after the NIT, right? And we declined that as a university because we got invited to that. But we found out the next day after practice, after I tore my ACL, that we weren't in anything. So all my teammates took off for spring break, Panama City Beach, and I took off to drive up to Indy to go have surgery on my knee. And I was thinking about transferring at the time. And who wants a kid who didn't play at all his freshman year and is just coming off an ACL surgery? So transferring was out of the question at that point. And so that whole summer, I really had to lock in and make a decision because I felt like I didn't belong, right, the whole season. And then if you read all the message boards as a freshman, 18-year-old kid, and all the negative things or people are saying about you, it can really compound on that destroying of your confidence, right, and your sense of self-worth and belonging. So I stopped reading all of that stuff, and I made a commitment to myself that I'm here. I'm gonna be here, and I didn't even want to prove to everybody else that I could be there and play at that level. I had to prove to myself first that I belong there before I really tried to prove that to everybody else. Because if I could prove it to myself, then I know everybody else would believe it, because I hold myself to a higher standard than anybody else could. So understanding that I had to rehab, so I was doing rehab 2-3 times a day. I stayed throughout the whole summer, didn't go home except for a couple times on the weekend, and just rehabbed. And I came back from my first ACL surgery in 6 months and was starting center for IU because of injuries and kids getting in trouble for several games in my sophomore year, and just did everything I could to get on the court. I know I wasn't going to score 10 to 20 points a game. I know I wasn't making any more than 10 shots up a game. That just wasn't my role. I hadn't earned it, right? So I took it upon myself to do the things that nobody else would do on the team. I took inventory of what is our team missing that like nobody does, and that was diving on the floor for loose balls, taking charges, blocking out, playing sound defense, not turning it over. The typical Indiana basketball player, right? The fundamentally sound player. And that's what I decided was going to get me on the court. And so that's what all I focused on. I didn't focus on scoring or my minutes or whatever. It was just when I was in practice or I was in the games, that's all I focused on, is control what I could control. And those are all effort things that I could control within my own output, that I know that if I did those, Coach Green had to play me because nobody else was doing them.
And of course, many of those that were calling the games at that time said if you had 12 Collin Hartmans on your team, you'd be a championship team. So.
I don't know about that, but no, it also, that kind of carried into, making open shots, right, and creating plays for other people. And so as I got that foundation built, I kind of became the quote unquote glue guy, right? I was a guy that would come up with a loose ball in a crunch time or take a charge on, their top player or whatever that may be, or use a few fouls to get in somebody's head. So,
well, some refer to as doing the dirty work then.
Oh yeah, Dirty 30. That's what they called me sometimes. Dirty 30. I don't know how I felt about that nickname, but it's no, I completely agree. And then I broke my wrist my junior year in the Big Ten tournament. We were playing, I believe it was Michigan, and went for a layup, got undercut, caught myself on my wrist, broke it. It was my shooting wrist. Doctor said, it's not going to hurt it's not going to make it any worse if you continue to play, but it's going to hurt like hell. And so Coach Green sat me down. He said, look, you have the second best left hand on the entire team. If you want to play, I'll play you. And so I played the whole NCAA tournament when we beat Kentucky in the NCAA tournament with a broken shooting wrist. So I played all left-handed. It's funny because the 2 weeks leading up to that, I was shooting left-handed in practice. My free throws, three-pointers, everything. And I got to about wide open. I'd hit about 50% of my threes with my left hand within 2 weeks. And so it was interesting for me to the point where I couldn't even squeeze a basketball. And throughout all of the warm-ups and stuff in the NCAA tournament, there's a lot of coverage on warm-ups and open practices with videos and interviews and all that. So they had me wear a long sleeve undershirt to cover up my wrist brace, to hide it from the media and hide it from the other teams and things of that nature. And so, nobody knew. I remember we were playing North Carolina when we ended up losing North Carolina in the Sweet 16. And it was the very first shot of the game for us. I was in transition, stopped on the right wing, or kind of low wing, right in front of their bench, and I hear their coach yelling, "Shooter, shooter, shooter!" I'm like, I haven't shot with my right hand in weeks, and it is. Before the game, they would shoot me up with a steroid right into my hand to the point where there was so much fluid in my hands that you could visibly see how much steroid they put in my hands. And then before the game, they'd put a shot in my butt for steroids as well. And then they'd redo the local steroid again at halftime before I ran out. That's how bad I couldn't feel my hand. They wanted my hand to be numb. And I was running down on that sideline, and it was just pure adrenaline. And they threw the ball down to me, and I shot it through with my right hand because I didn't know what else to do. and went in, and I was like, coach went off on them, and I was just thinking, I hope they don't expect me to do that all night, because I'm not going to be able to shoot like that again. Because I mean, it hurt, but it's just, broke my wrist and then tore my other ACL my senior year, so I missed my entire senior year and came back for my 5th year. I fractured my sternum, I fractured my L4 vertebrae, I broke my nose twice, had surgery on that. I got stitches here. That was actually the Purdue game. AJ Hammond split me open right here. Foul was called on me. I was not happy about that. I think it was a junior year. And by this time I've been around, I knew the refs, and I had some leeway because I've been around long enough, and I communicated with the refs professionally, right, respectfully, and it was a loose ball, and AJ Hammond's elbow went right into my chin, split it wide, split it open. There was a flap hanging down, blood, whole 9 yards. It was very aesthetically pleasing. Anyways,
Our staff has weak stomachs. Be careful.
They're all sitting down, so we're good. But so I went over to the ref because the foul was called on me, and I kind of just showed it to him. I said, "That foul was on me," and he said, "Yeah." I said, "All right, you look like an idiot right now," and just walked off. And he's like, "You're right, I owe you one." And so I went in, got it stitched up, came back in a couple minutes later, and he gave me a few. He helped me out, but I had stitches here, and I took a charge and fractured my sternum. That was fun. So dislocated shoulders, all that stuff. So
And everybody thinks football's such a dangerous sport, right?
that's what happens when when you got to do the dirty work. You get injured.
Well, a lot of people think of what a glamorous sport that is, but they may rethink that after hearing your litany of battle scars there.
I earned them, that's for sure.
Well, I'm sure that if you had to do it all over again, you would do the same thing, I assume.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, it was a heck of an experience. Not many people get to play in front of 17,500 in Assembly Hall on a given night, and play in the games that I got to play in. Won the Big Ten championship, go to Sweet 16, beat Kentucky in the round of 32. Those are things that.
You're being modest too. I think there's a graphic I've seen thrown around at various times of the Big Ten season that you're in the top 10 all time with your 3-point acumen.
Yes.
Is that right in the Big Ten?
Yeah. So I'm top 10 all time. Well, I was last time I checked for 3-point field goal percentage. So I was very choosy when I shot. I didn't put up a whole lot of reps, but I think I meet the criteria of putting up enough shots.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
so
making them.
Well, if we have the 3-point shooting contest at the fair next year, we're going to definitely get you on the Chat with the Chair squad and go out there and have a ringer. So you and Don Wilson, I think, will be able to carry the raid. And Jay Scott, if we have a shoot off, he'll come in, and he's you should see him use his left hand. It's a thing of beauty. So
I love lefties. Trying to make my daughter a lefty right now.
and you've got some big news that on that front. So you and Mary Catherine have been married and have welcomed a new addition.
Yes, Collin Hartman.
There you have it.
Collin
Hartman.
Almost 2.5 months old, growing up quickly on us, and training started day one.
All right, absolutely. and already got her using the left hand.
Left hand, grabbing all the jingle jangles or whatever she's got, left-handed only.
Well, you see,
it's going to be that southpaw.
You've got the background for that, so that's an awesome thing, beautiful, and be a fun holiday season with Holland for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, some other exciting news in your professional life.
Oh yeah.
So you had an opportunity to actually make your way back into Bloomington, into the IU campus.
Yeah, so I'm working again in Bloomington, not for the university, but I am running an NIL collective so Name, Image, and Likeness collective for Indiana University that exclusively benefits Indiana University athletes. So, that whole world is something else. It's changing every day.
So I know our viewers have heard that NIL thrown around. If you don't mind telling our viewers what that stands for and what that's all about.
Yeah, so student athletes are allowed to be compensated now for their name, image, and likeness, for their influence. It's just like any other celebrity that's allowed to utilize their quote-unquote star power, right? Their influence to benefit another given entity. Businesses, individuals can now engage in, enter agreements with athletes, at their own will, right? Nobody's forced to do these deals, to compensate athletes for, various different things, whether it's signed memorabilia, whether it's showing up to their kid's birthday party, whether it's, promoting their car dealership or whatever that may be. They can enter those agreements with the student athletes to then pay them for given, whether it's social media posts, all that stuff. So there's a lot of different ways that it's been navigated, because it is the wild, wild west right now.
Okay.
The NCAA has put out new guidance a couple weeks ago, with more clarifications around it all, which is basically targeted towards how the universities can and can't interact with NIL. The universities are subject to Title IX, so that's why all these collectives are popping up rather than the universities just conducting all of these deals, because then the university would have to put the same effort and about the same numbers towards men's and women's, when in reality that makes sense, but it's free market principles, right? It's what people are willing to pay for. So you can't force people to pay for, X athlete if X athlete is male or female, but they don't have the influence. So it's just interesting kind of navigating, interacting with the university and interacting with the athletes, and athletes are now allowed to have agents, which is a whole nother ringer in it all. But then also, our clients are the individuals and the businesses that want to engage in NIL. So we don't act on behalf of the athletes, but we act on behalf of the individuals that want to approach the athletes and construct any given deal or agreement to make sure the contracts are all compliant from an NCAA and university perspective, and then make sure also the athletes are where they're supposed to be when they say they're going to be there, because these 18 to 20-year-old kids aren't always the most punctual, and then making sure that they're posting their social media posts on time, and all of that. So we're kind of a one-stop shop to NIL for people and businesses.
So you're really getting involved in this on the ground floor. I mean, this is really all being created as we speak in many ways, and for the months you've been on the job, but it's really starting at that level, and it's really a process that's evolving, as you say, as we go kind of day by day.
Yeah, we actually have, so there are we have a 501c3 entity, and so the way that works, it's a different kind of twist on NIL. That has so far been green-lighted by the IRS and the Fed, so that may be subject to change in a couple of years. They're kind of revisiting it. I don't think that anything will necessarily change. I think it was just kind of a hot button topic, but we've reached out to senators and stuff to get on the federal level to talk to the spokespeople of that issue. But we have a 501c3 called Hoosiers for Good. So what we do is individuals can give to Hoosiers for Good, and it just gets you can earmark it for a certain sport, not for a certain player. And what we do is we enter agreements with student athletes to then partner them with charities that we've partnered with across the state. So currently we're partnered with 22 different charities, and it's no cost to the charity. And we then partner the athletes with those charities, and what those athletes have to do is 4 or 5 appearances at events for the charity, and then 10 to 14 social media posts to raise awareness for that charity. And so all the charity gets is a new demographic that they're reaching, right, that they probably wouldn't have otherwise reached with different followers of these athletes. And then also they get to give back to the Boys and Girls Club is one of the charities that we work with, and so the players get to go and interact with those individuals involved in the charity, and show up to the events and raise awareness, and just help push out the message of that given charity. So it's really NIL with a twist of helping athletes get engaged at a different capacity, right? Get out in the community, and people are, well, you shouldn't have to pay them to do charity. Well, it's better that they're doing charity at all, right? They're going involving in charities. So it's kind of just a different twist to engage in NIL. So we've kind of covered all the bases of all of it. So
in addition, of course, to the financial component, I would assume that particularly since your entire life since you've been able to get up and walk around. You've been involved in athletics. It's gotten you back into athletics and seeing the individuals, young people participating in sports. So that's got to be exciting as well.
Oh yeah, and it's been interesting because I have a different perspective on life now. Having had careers and gotten married and have a kid now, you have a different perspective on life. Is hindsight 2020? I go back and change a lot of things, just about the way my mindset was and how I approach things. One of the things that I talk to these kids about is that you can take the check, right, from an NIL perspective. You can take the check and just cash it and move on, but take note of the lives that you're impacting, right? If you're doing the charity work, take note of who you are impacting, and on the business side, take note of whose hands you're shaking, who are constructing these deals with you, because that ball is going to stop bouncing at some point, I promise. Yeah. And whether it's an industry you want to go into or not, it's good to have a great network of people that know, like, and trust you. And so trying to mentor them from the NIL perspective is great, but also at the same time, like, they need to set up LLCs. We tell them that they need to set up LLCs and kind of put back X amount. There's that aspect of it, but then there's a human aspect of be a people person, be somebody that people want to be around. And quite candidly, that's why I'm in my position, because when I was at IU, we didn't have NIL. I wouldn't be rich, but I'd have more than I do right now. It's kind of just telling them, like, that's the reason I'm in my position, is because I took the time to get to know people when I was at IU. And that's what these kids have the opportunity to do at a very, very high level. So, just being around, being able to go to the games again, and I think Mary Kate and I are going to go to the North Carolina game, and it's just being able to do that. And then, when Holland is okay to be in a stadium of 17,500 people, she'll be making those games as well. We did get her some earmuffs, so we'll try those out. But no, it's really cool to be around all the sports again and be back in the know.
Well, you've even had her out now. You're patronizing the local middle school basketball, right? You took her out to a middle school game and being part of the community. And in fact, you have integrated yourself well in the Terrell community. Tried
to.
You've even, I know you bring a lot of energy. You renamed even the area, is that right?
Paradise, baby. It's called Paradise. We're rebranding. It hasn't caught on yet, but we're working on it.
Well, we're going to get some shirts, some sweatshirts, hats, and I think it's going to catch on.
I think so. I don't know why it shouldn't.
No.
Paradise.
Absolutely. So, we appreciate you coming in and joining us, and of course, having our viewers catch up on all the great things that you and your family are doing. And any last thoughts for our viewers?
No, just looking forward to the Hoosiers basketball team this year. It's going to be. I went to the game on Thursday, and those boys are.
Yeah, we didn't really get to that yet. It looks like down in Bloomington it's going to be a very good season for the Hoosiers and Hoosier Nation and Sycamores as well. So we look like there's going to be, with the dreary days sometimes with the winter weather, that we'll have some things to look forward to in the gyms in Bloomington and Terre Haute and across the nation with the television. So that's great. So you're predicting good things in Bloomington for this coming season.
Yeah, there's an NBA scout I was talking to. He said we have about 6 or 7 pros on the team right now.
That's awesome.
And
that's awesome.
One good thing to note about basketball, I think why Indiana likes basketball so much, the state that is it's always sunny and 75 inside of the arena.
That is a good point. That's a good point. So we encourage everybody to get out and watch these young people participate, both the male and the female teams, and that would be great to get out and support them. And
IU's women's team is really good this year too. They're top 15 right now.
Awesome. So a lot of great basketball, and like he said, it's 75 in that gym. So
75 and sunny, baby. Bright lights.
Well, we sure appreciate everybody tuning in and joining us. It's been great for Collin to come in. Maybe we can get Holland to come in with you next time you come in and let her run the show here. So,
oh Lord, you want to roll those dice?
We want everybody to stay healthy and well out there. Appreciate you tuning in, and God bless you all. Have a great night.
OCRATIC. Everything you need to know about the Vigo party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with a chair.